Welcome to Uncolored. I'm Kevin Metcalf, and we're going to pick up where I left off last time, we were talking about labels. And we're going to continue with the idea, but we're going to delve into something a little bit different. It's kind of, or you can say it's a type of label. But this type of label is not necessarily a word. It's a group of words that frame a conversation. And when I mean frame a conversation, think of conversations as looking at ideas from a different window inside the house. So if you're looking outside the house through one particular window, you're going to see certain things. But if you look through a different window, you're going to see some different things. Now, many of the things are going to be exactly the same because you're both looking outside. But there's probably going to be some things in this window that you can't see from the other window. If you frame things a particular way, what you're trying to do is only get people to understand the idea through that particular window. And you don't want them looking in any of the other windows to see anything else other than what you want them to see and other than what you want to talk about. That's the idea behind framing a conversation. Now, again, sometimes it's not necessarily an intentional thing people do. It's just by the nature of when we're saying or talking about things, sometimes we only have a perspective for one particular window, and that's really all we understand the idea by. So oftentimes it's not intentional. It's a lack of our not having a different way of looking at the world or never having looked at the world from a different way. But oftentimes it's calculated. And this is a tool that we're going to be talking about down the road, but I saw these two things here and I just thought they were perfect examples of what I'm talking about. And the subject of this particular presentation is going to be Deion Sanders. Now, Deion Sanders is a brilliant guy. I mean, super smart. There are very few people who have moved their careers intentionally the way they wanted. When I was a young guy, and I think we're probably about the same age, Deion and I, when he came out of college, he was Neon Deion. He was already marketing himself in college when he was coming out of, I think it was Florida State. He had the big chains on, and everybody had the chains on, but not everybody was like Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders had a plan, he had a way, and I think his whole career, he marketed himself and lived up to everything that he said he was going to do. So we're going to use Deion Sanders. If you came in here to listen to some sports thing, that's not what's going to happen here. We're not doing sports here, at least not today. But Deion Sanders, I saw a couple of things from Deion over the past couple of weeks, and this is the last one that we're going to look at was just from last week. And I thought it was just a brilliant example of what I'm talking about. So we're going to do good Deion and bad Deion. Now understand, Deion's a brilliant guy, but he's brilliant in articulating his ideas in such an easy way, in an engaging way that makes it difficult to not want to hear him. He's fantastic. And I think he understands that very well. And I think everything Deion does, and it's just my opinion, everything Deion does, he does for the glorification of Deion. That's how it seems to me. I think every move he makes is, how am I going to elevate Deion Sanders? And I think he's done a fantastic job, because it's not enough just to have an idea or verbal skills to do that. You got to have talent. And this guy's got all the talent. He was, in my opinion, best defensive back in the history of the league, in my opinion. When he finished playing football, he played for the Niners, Cowboys in Atlanta, was brilliant. Every place he played. When he went to do broadcasting, I don't know where he was on some NFL thing. He's fantastic. I mean, he had the best, his spot was the best spot. The point I'm making is, there are very few people who are as savvy as a communicator as Deion Sanders. He's top notch. And I think oftentimes he uses it in good ways, and I think sometimes he uses it in bad ways. And so we're going to look at one of both of those. So the first one is a press conference that happened several weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago. This is before the college season started. But watch how he takes this question, and the person who asked the question frames it in sort of a broad sense. Deion immediately, and he always does this, he always takes the initiative in any conversation that he's having. And he takes the initiative and challenges the framing of the particular question. And you can see how he uses that to his advantage. So let me see if I can find it here. All right, here we go. So take a look at this question. And the question, in case you can't hear it, is the guy's going to ask, where do you see Colorado going in the midst of all of the craziness going on? And there's a lot of craziness going on in college football now. Conferences are disintegrating. NIL, people are trying to figure out how that's going to work. The portal, where players can every year or so, or I don't know how it works, but they can bounce from team to team in a far less restricted way than they could have before, or at least that's what I'm hearing. I don't know all of that. I don't follow that. But there's all kinds of things going on in college football that you could call crazy. So it's a very broad question the way he asked the question, but listen to how Deion answers the question.
Coach Joe Rico, Mile High Sports Radio's The Final Word. Can you talk a little bit about, where Colorado is headed as far as this kind of craziness going on with college football?
What craziness are you talking about?
Well, just different teams moving.
Man, I don't care nothing about no different teams.
So you see what he did there? He immediately asked, what craziness are you talking about? And instead of taking this broad question that could be about a lot of different things, he asked, what are you talking about? This is a very important thing that, in my opinion, doesn't happen enough. Oftentimes people are talking about things, and oftentimes these ideas are broad, and they encompass a whole lot of different ideas. And rather than zeroing in, turning up the resolution on the idea, they kind of just batter around about any of the ideas that it could possibly be the focus of it. And you start to hear people not necessarily even talking about the same thing. And I'm sure you've heard this where people are talking, some person's asking a question and they're answering a different question. And they'll go on, and then you go, well, they never really answered the question that he asked. Well, oftentimes, they may be avoiding it, but oftentimes they're not even sure what the question is because they didn't take the time to do what Deion just did. He asked, what are you talking about? There's all kinds of things that the reporter could be referring to. Listen to it one more time, because this is brilliant.
Talk a little bit about, where Colorado is headed as far as this kind of craziness going on with college football.
What craziness are you talking about?
Well, just different teams moving.
Man, I don't care nothing about no different teams moving. We're trying to win, man. I don't care where we play.
Okay.
I don't care what conference, who we're playing against. We're trying to win. All this is about money. You know that. It's about a bag. Everybody's chasing a bag. Then you get mad at the players when they chase it. How's that?
So now that what he did there was another brilliant tactic. And again, Deion, in my opinion, always knows what he's doing. He first had the person asking the question narrow it down to a particular topic. And almost when he heard that, Deion just dismissed it. I ain't even worried about that. Then he reframes the conversation to money. And in that conversation, while there's no high ground to be had because everybody's going after the money, Deion takes the high ground by being the one who's pointing this out. Right? Everybody's going for the money, but he becomes the hero of the conversation because he's pointing out that everybody's going for the money. So he takes the question, dismisses it, and then flips it to something that is to his benefit. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
How do the grown-ups get mad at the players when they chasing it when the colleges are chasing it?
Yeah, that's true. I
know that's true.
Couple more teams moving today, rumored. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, same teams are talking about us, right? Woo! Oh, Lord, that was good.
Shoot. Listen, that's, in my opinion, that's good Deion. Total control, winning the conversation. And as a coach, that's what you want to do. He's the toast of the college town. It's going to be fantastic watching him play. He just beat a team that nobody thought he was going to beat. I say nobody, but nobody knew what Colorado was going to be. There's all kinds of changes, those kinds of things. So it was a great win that he had. And, some of the press conference that he had after, you can see him glowing about it, but we're not getting into that. The point I'm making is, Deion Sanders is one of the few people who, when he engages the public, he's always saying things calculated to reframe the issue to his benefit. And again, it's just my opinion. I have nothing bad against Deion. I hope he does fantastic. I really do. But I think everything Deion does is for the glorification of Deion Sanders. I don't think that what he tells you in an authentic fashion. I think he just says it that I think he says the things that are going to make him look good and make him look attractive. And he's got it all. Smart, great smile, handsome dude, incredibly articulate, can throw out his ideas in such a very easy fashion. It's disarming almost. So listen, that's the good Deion. Now here is the bad Deion, or the not so good Deion, in my opinion. This is from an article in Bleacher Report. This is just from last week. So just give you the breakdown. There's this kid named Tyler Brown, I think is his name. And if you don't know, Deion Sanders was just not last year, but before he went to Colorado, he was coaching at a college called Jackson State. It's an HBCU, and HBCUs are, well, maybe we'll talk about that. But he's coaching at Jackson State. This is his first head coaching job, and apparently he did a very good job there. But when he got the opportunity to Colorado State, one of the things he's done is he's changing his roster over. I think there's something like 60, 70% of the roster at Colorado State he got rid of and got through the transfer portal. Okay. But this kid, Tyler Brown, was still at Jackson State, and Deion wanted him to go over to Colorado with him. Wanted to move over. Apparently, that's what this article is about. Now, apparently, this kid also has some mental health issues. And so what Deion does, I'm going to read the article, and I want you to hear how he's framing this particular idea, this inability for the player to transfer over, because apparently the NCAA is not allowing this young kid, Tyler Brown, to transfer over. So it starts here. Deion Sanders rips the NCAA over mental health after Colorado's Tyler Brown denied waiver. Now, he's saying Colorado's Tyler Brown because apparently the transfers already went through. So he's going to play for Colorado, but according to the NCAA, he's got to wait for a year because apparently he's transferred too many times. I don't know. Listen, and just so you know, I'm no defender of the NCAA. It's a dumb organization, and it seems like you've got a bunch of idiots running it who push rules that make no sense to me. That's how it seems to me. So I'm no fan of the NCAA, okay? But having an investigator's mindset or an explorer's mindset, I'm not looking to take anybody's side here. I just want to see if I can extract a more accurate picture of what's going on beyond what I'm reading here in the article, okay? And one of the ways we're going to do that is we're just going to ask questions. We're going to challenge some labels. There's going to be a couple of labels you're going to hear, and we're going to challenge and ask what that really means. What does that look like? Because oftentimes you'll hear a label, and the goal of the label oftentimes is so that the person talking can hide behind that label, hoping you're not going to ask questions about it. Because the label evokes such a powerful emotional reaction for many people. They're hoping that reaction will keep people from asking questions, and it's a very effective tool. But as an explorer, you're going to ignore that. if somebody puts out a label that you don't quite understand, you're gonna question it. You're gonna challenge that person to use that label. I need you to tell me all of the ideas that are folded into that particular label that you're using. Because again, as I talked about earlier, if you got a box and it has all your bedroom stuff in it, and your neighbor also has a box that has all their bedroom stuff in it, there's absolutely no reason to believe that you have the exact same things in your box that they have in their box. And so just reading the label bedroom stuff does not tell you what's inside that box. And if you really want to know, if you're responsible to know, if you're talking about what's in his box, at some point you're going to go, well, can I see? What do you have in there? Okay, that's the idea behind challenging some of the labels that are used today, or any labels that you have when you're trying to figure out what's going on behind the words that are being used to communicate to people, because there's always an idea behind the words. And sometimes people don't want you to hear the idea. They don't want you to know what the idea is. They just want you to hear the words and back away from the idea. And that's what's happening here, I think. But I've already sort of colored it, so poison the well, if you will. But let's hear it. So we get into the article. Let me change things here. All right, here we go. Colorado head football coach Deion Sanders didn't hold back when discussing the NCAA's handling of mental health issues after offensive lineman Tyler Brown was denied immediate eligibility following his transfer from Jackson State. So understand that it's not that the guy can't go, he just can't go immediately. He's going to have to wait a year. Okay, that's what actually is happening. In the second paragraph, do you really care about mental health, or are you saying you care? Are you caring when it's convenient? Are you caring when it's convenient? Sanders said in a press conference per The Athletic's Dave Ubin. I don't know how to say that name. Hopefully I pronounce it correctly. Or when it's profitable. Okay. Now, I don't know what he means when it's profitable, but, because I think the NCAA makes the same amount of money either way. He added, it don't make sense. Some things just don't make sense. You say you really care about mental health, but when you have someone really dealing with mental health, there's a problem. And then ostracizing him, not allowing him to do what he's blessed and gifted to do. And that thing presents him peace, and that's trying for a young man. Okay. So let's just take a look at some of the things that he's saying in the article, okay? Is the NCAA ostracizing this kid? Now, I would have to say no. They're making him wait a year because the transfer policy says that after the number of transfers that he already has, he can't transfer again. Now, is it a dumb rule? Probably. That's what the NCAA seems to specialize in, is dumb rules. So I'm, again, not defending them. I'm simply saying that's the rule. And that's why this is happening. It seems like Deion Sanders is trying to make it sound like they're saying you can never play football again. And that's not what's going on. They're saying he's having to wait a year. Now, you may say that's not a big deal. I think it is. Because what Deion says is, if you're looking in the article, you're ostracizing him and not allowing him to do what he's blessed and gifted to do. And that thing, that thing that presents him peace. And that's trying for a young man. And he's 100% correct. But here's the question. Are they telling him he can't play football? I don't think they are. As a matter of fact, had he not entered the transfer portal again, he could be playing football right now at Jackson State, if I understand correctly. Now, maybe that's not the case, but it seems like the only reason he can't play football is because he wants to play with Deion at Colorado. He doesn't want to play at Jackson State with whoever the coach is going to be there. This is Deion. This is bad Deion. This is Deion perpetuating what's known as black culture, unfortunately, where I'm always the victim. Nothing that happens to me has anything to do with anything that I've done. All the decisions I made were great and fantastic, but when bad things happen to me, I got to find somebody else to blame. That's what's going on here. This is bad Deion. Deion is trying to frame this conversation in such a way that it's the NCAA that doesn't care about this man's mental health. I think that what's actually going on is that Deion Sanders doesn't care about this guy's mental health. Okay? Now think about it. Deion Sanders is coaching at Jackson State, and he has this young man, Tyler Brown, on the team, if I understand the situation correctly, and I may not. I don't follow these things so closely, but I'm assuming that's the case, that Tyler Brown was being coached by Deion Sanders at Jackson State, either last year or the year before. That's what I'm assuming. Now, if Deion, who in this article is trying to make it seem like he's the one who cares about mental health, this young man's mental health in particular, and the NCAA is the people who don't, then I have a few questions. Okay. If this young man's mental health was so important to Deion, why is he not still coaching at Jackson State? If somehow, the way Deion seems to be making it seem, that Deion Sanders is the key to this young man's mental health, that another coach can't help this kid through whatever problems he's having, it has to be Deion Sanders, and it has to be at Colorado State. Apparently, that's what we're to understand. Because if the paramount thing was this kid's mental health, I think he'd still be at Jackson State, seems to me. How about this? You might go, well, Kev, maybe Deion didn't know. Maybe he didn't know that the transfer policy would hold this kid up, and he thought that the kid would be happy or there'd be no problem with this young man playing with him at Colorado State. Okay, fine. Shouldn't Deion know the transfer policy as the head coach? Shouldn't he know what the NCAA's transfer policy is? That seems to be his responsibility, or somebody on his staff, seems to me. See, if Deion really cared about this kid's mental health, he would have made sure that there wasn't going to be a problem before he took that job. And if he didn't know, he could have asked. I'm sure if he went to the NCAA and say, hey, I got this kid, Tyler Brown, I want to take him to Colorado with me. Is there going to be a problem? And I'm sure they would have checked their files or whatever they do. And they've said, yeah, he's not going to be able to go. And if that was the case, if Deion, as he's trying to make it seem here that he really cares about this kid's mental health, then he would have said, you know what? If this young man can't go, then I'm not going to Colorado. Not until he can go. You know why? Because I am so concerned about this kid's mental health. See, I think Deion's a fraud here. That's all I'm saying. Love him. Hope he has a bunch of success. He's full of shit. He don't care about this kid's mental health. I'll ask you another question. Here's another question that just popped up. Do you think that Deion would care so much about this kid's mental health if he was just the marginal player? Do you think that if Deion didn't think that this young man's talents wouldn't help him at Colorado, talking about Deion, and this kid was just, he was okay, but, may make the team, may not, do you think Deion would still be making this stink? I don't think so. Now, I don't know. But I find it hard to believe that he would be making this such a big issue if the kid wasn't that good. Matter of fact, that's another question. Let's say the kid goes to Colorado State and there's two other kids that are better than he is. And Deion has to cut this kid. Well, wait a minute. That's going to affect his mental health. Now, Deion is the one who's not allowing this kid to do the thing he loves to do, because Deion would have to cut him from the team because he just turned out that he wasn't that good. See, Deion would be doing the exact same thing that he's accusing the NCAA of doing. But somehow, none of that comes up in the article. See, Deion doesn't take responsibility for the fact that it was his job to know what the rules were. He didn't say anything about that. That's his responsibility. Nothing about that in the article. If Deion really cared about this kid's mental health, if that was the issue as he's trying to make it seem, I can't see how he's not coaching at Jackson State right now. But it seems to me that Deion says, well, I got a better opportunity over here and can't help you, son. Take your meds, go see your doctor. I hope it all works out. Something like that. And I got to be honest, you can have that. I ain't mad. See, Deion Sanders, in my opinion, always looks out for Deion Sanders. That's how it seems to me. And I think if he can use the media to put pressure on someone else and make himself out to be the good guy, make himself out to be the one who cares, make himself out to be the one who's, not doing anything wrong. And it's always someone else's responsibility, again, i.e., play the victim card. I think Deion will do that every time. There's more going on here behind this article beyond what has been said. And the whole idea that the NCAA doesn't care and Deion does care, I think it's all BS. It's all BS. Now, does the NCAA care? Probably not. I don't know why they would. Probably not. Does Deion care? There's nothing that has happened that I can see that would indicate that he does. Because if he did, seems to me, again, should have been in Jackson State coaching till the kid can come over with him. That's not the NCAA's fault. That's his fault. What are some of the labels here? I wanted to get back to labels because this is another important part of it. And you'll see it in the article, and Deion, John uses them very liberally. It's the caring about mental health. Okay. Again, and it's sort of a compound label. There's the caring part and there's the mental health part. Okay. Caring. What does it mean to care? Does caring mean, as it seems like what Deion wants to happen, does it mean that when someone who has a mental health issue, and it seems like this kid does have mental health, you go on to the bottom of the article, the young man talks about some of his struggles, which, again, there's a YouTube video detailing his problems and how this affects him. Not what I would advise, but I'm no mental health professional, so maybe that's what you're supposed to do. But my question is caring, the label caring, because you hear this all the time. Don't you care? Oh, we care more. You must not care. Well, the question is, what does that look like in this specific instance? Does caring about someone mean that when they have some sort of an obstacle, that the whole world rushes away to remove the obstacle from that kid or that young man, young woman, whoever it is? Mental health issues, no mental health issues. Is caring about someone, does that mean when something doesn't go their way, when they're disappointed by some turn of events, that it's society's job to now rush and remove whatever obstacles that they may face because it might negatively affect their mental health? Or is caring something more like, well, life isn't always going to turn out the way you want, so we should teach you how to deal with that. That whether it goes the way you want to or it doesn't go the way you want to, you can still win. You can still come through even if things don't happen exactly the way you want. See, now for me, it's the second thing. As a matter of fact, I think the first way to do it makes a person unable to cope with reality. And you see that today with all these young folks who want a safe space, right? All that means is I haven't developed enough to deal with the real world. So I need a place where the real world doesn't affect me. So this isn't just a mental health, people with mental illness. There are people who don't have mental illness, who may have mental illness, but the whole safe spaces things, that's what this is. It's the victim mentality. And for Deion to say he's caring by trying to push a victim mentality on this young man, I don't think he cares at all. I think it's the opposite of caring. I think he's exploiting this young man. I'll go that far. It's exploitation. If Deion really cared about this young man, he would say something along the lines of, listen, I'm going to Colorado State. You'll be able to come next year. But this year is a time for you to get better, for you to train. You can come and visit or whatever else they can do. But you can hang on for a year. And that would make him, give him an example, Tyler Brown I'm talking about, of him overcoming an obstacle when things didn't turn out his way. Now, it seems to me, again, I'm no mental health professional, but it seems to me that's a better way to grow up a young man. Mental health or no mental health. When obstacles face you, you can get through it. And this seems to be a good opportunity for that. Because I'll tell you what, Deion's not going to be coaching him forever. And I don't think when this young man's football career is over, whether it's college or he goes on to the pros, that Deion's going to adopt him as a son. So at some point in time, this young man, Tyler Brown, is going to have to figure out, how do I get on without Deion Sanders? How am I going to get along? So my question is, isn't this the perfect time to figure that one out? Isn't this the perfect time to get stronger and less codependent on Deion Sanders? To learn to stand on your own feet? If that's possible, again, no healthcare professional, just positing the possibility that maybe telling people that if you've got a mental health issue, it's going to be society's job to remove every obstacle in front of you for the rest of your life. That's how we're going to fix this thing. It just seems like a bad idea to me. It seems like a bad idea. It just seems at some point in time, we could get them to some point or help encourage them to go, well, yeah, that's not what I wanted, but I can deal with that. If it's possible. Again, I'm not a healthcare professional. But independence, to me, seems a better path than dependence. And what this is victimhood and dependence. That's what caring means for Deion Sanders. When in my mind, the box that has the word caring on it for me is independence and overcoming obstacles. That's what I think caring is. Teaching somebody to be independent and to overcome obstacles in front of them. So the point is that label care, Deion Sanders seems to have something different in that box, different ideas folded into that label caring than I would. I would have the opposite things in there. And finally, mental health. That's another issue too. You know, you're going to hear everybody say that they got mental health issues. There was a guy, the PGA guy, and I'll have to figure out his name. I don't know who it is, but he was keeping the Live Tour out and keeping the PGA players off of the Live Tour. And there's all kinds of these players who turned down a bunch of money from the Live Tour because, you know, this PGA president was standing on the flag and all this stuff. And then turns around, he sold out the PGA from under all these people that he told to stand against the Live Tour, and just sold out to the Live Tour. Well, right after that, I think it was like a week or two later, there was I think it was the US Open, someplace in Beverly Hills, California, somewhere around there. Well, this guy who was supposed to be there didn't show up. Right after he had sold out the whole PGA Tour and nobody liked him. Suddenly he had, guess what? Mental health issues. Mental health issues. That was his excuse. And my question is mental health issues, is it really something that you have to be diagnosed for? That you need to be seeing a doctor under a doctor's care and seeing somebody for to manage? Or is it because you had a stressful couple of weeks and you're feeling bad? Or you're afraid to face the consequences of the decisions you've made? Does that constitute mental health? Now, I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of people claiming mental health issues, and I don't know what to call that. I don't even know what's in that box. And I just think that's something that should be questioned. When somebody goes, hey, I got mental health issues, what are you talking about? Are you under doctor's care? Or you just can't handle the heat? I don't know which one that is. It seems both are being claimed. And I'm not sure the fact that you can't handle your job qualifies as a mental health issue. I don't know. But again, labels are put out there, and oftentimes they're meant, like this mental health thing, so you don't ask questions. Oh, you're questioning the person's mental health? You're not supposed to question mental health. If somebody says mental health, you're supposed to just turn the other way and go, boy, we're going to let you do whatever you want to do. I'm not sure that's the right way to go about it. I think if you're going to say you've got mental health, I'd like to know what that means, because I might have mental health. Lots of people have said that I do. So maybe I do have mental health issues, but I've never made that claim. The point is, if you're going to be an investigator and if you're going to have an explorer's mind, when you're reading things, listening to conversations, watching debates on TV, listen to your politician, you cannot accept what they're telling you. You just can't. You have to look at what they're saying with the investigator's mind. And here's the key. There are no sacred cows. There is nothing that you can't question. There's no label, there's no term, there's no idea that you can't test and you can't ask about. And when people go, well, how could you dare ask? You can't ask that question. Are you questioning that? That must mean you're an asshole. Yeah, that pretty much describes me. Now tell me, what do you mean by that? What are the ideas that you have folded up in there? I'd like to know. And oftentimes what you're going to find is, A, they don't know themselves, or B, the terms that they're using or the ideas that they have folded up in there are really, really bad ideas, terrible ideas. And that's why they don't want you to ask them about them. They're terrible ideas. They don't know how to defend them, or they just don't even know what they are. So challenging labels, watching how things are framed, and asking yourself, well, is there another way I can look at this issue? It draws out so much information from conversations. When you're talking to people, again, reading things, somebody says something to you and they want to tell you this is how the world is or this is how you should be. First thing you should start doing is asking questions, challenging labels, and seeing if there's another way you can look at it that makes better sense than what they're telling you. That's what an investigator's mindset is. That's what an explorer's mindset is. So hopefully we can talk about that kind of thing and use more of these real world examples to illustrate some more previously abstract ideas. So, all right, that's it. Thanks for tuning in to Uncolored again today. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, or listen, maybe you see something differently than I do. Maybe I got something wrong, or there's something that that you see that I'm not looking at. I'd love to hear that in the comments. And I appreciate you guys challenging me on some of the things that I say, because, you know, again, there's no reason to think that I know everything. As a matter of fact, well, all right, get out of here. That's enough. Thanks for tuning in.